Have you ever wondered what life was like before civilization began? How humans lived? How they died? Who they worshipped? It's impossible now to fully comprehend a world without roads, electricity, phones, computers, or iPhones. But somehow we managed for most of our existence. And yet there are gaps in our understanding of early human development that surprise scientists to this day. For example, not long ago, archaeologists came across a fossil from 200,000 years ago and were shocked by what they discovered. They believed they had proof of humanity's first victim of a zombie apocalypse. Not sure if you're familiar with the term, but essentially this refers to a person who has been reanimated after death. Could this have been the first case of a human zombie? What did the evidence say? Join us as we look at the most recent discovery that has thrown experts into confusion. But before we get started, be sure to hit that like button for more videos. Also, stick around until the end to learn about the latest archaeological discovery that will leave you stunned. You won't want to miss this. It all started when researchers examined a skull and determined that it belonged to a young man who lived during the Neanderthal period. He died after being struck in the head by a stone tool. Although he survived the attack for some time, his injuries eventually killed him. He was buried in what would become modern Bulgaria, likely by members of his tribe. However, the damage to his bones revealed something strange. This individual had previously broken bones that had healed, indicating he had endured significant trauma earlier in his life. To understand the extent of the injuries, doctors performed a scan, which showed the man had been stabbed in the chest, shoulders, ribs, arm and thigh. There were also gashes above his eye sockets and on the back of his skull. But the strangest part was that every wound except one had completely healed. The gash over his right eye socket was still fresh, meaning he must have been attacked, allowed to live, then killed. At least 3 people participated in the second assault. Why? The researchers can't say for sure, but they speculate that the victim had offended his tribe and was banished. After wandering alone for a while, he was killed and cannibalized. The flesh was stripped from his face, but his brain was carefully removed and eaten last. The team believes the brain was consumed because it was considered a delicacy. The mystery deepens when similar injuries are found on other fossils from the same time period. This leads experts to wonder whether cannibalism and ritualistic behavior was widespread among early humans. If so, why did it stop? Humans have been fighting each other since the dawn of time. Historians debate the reason behind the violence, but most agree limited resources played a role. Even today, many conflicts erupt due to competition over water, food, and land. So it's safe to say our ancestors weren't exactly peaceful. But while reading about battles in history class might seem a little depressing, it puts the events of the past 7,000 years into perspective. According to a new study, 95% of men disappeared from Earth after a series of wars, disasters, or plagues. But which one? Let's rewind to about 8,000 years ago, when humans started working together on a larger scale. As agricultural communities grew, they required more space and resources. Small villages turned into cities, and soon entire nations were clashing over territory. To make matters worse, climate change led to droughts and famines, forcing people to migrate or die. Experts think these two factors, rapid urbanization and climate change, may have contributed to the sudden drop in male DNA. In the past, historians studied artifacts to piece together what life was like during the Stone Age. Today, they have another powerful tool, ancient DNA. Researchers can examine remains to determine someone's appearance, genetic makeup, dietary habits, and even cause of death. A group of scientists analyzed samples from around the world to see how the male genome changed between 30,000 and 8,000 years ago. They were surprised by what they found. Most males alive 7,000 years ago didn't pass on their genetic material. But another way, 95% of men went extinct. Fortunately, scientists know the extinction didn't affect women as much. Most females lived to be around 60, while men only reached 40, 50 on average. So it's possible that older men simply passed away during the time frame studied, leaving fewer male genes in the population. But the data suggests something else entirely. The number of Y chromosomes in the gene pool suddenly dropped. Some scientists suggested a war or series of wars that targeted men specifically. After all, male-on-male violence isn't uncommon today. And throughout history, certain groups have conducted genocide against men. For example, the Ottoman Empire reportedly slaughtered boys under the age of 12 in order to ensure the Sultaness bloodline. In China, the infamous one-child policy prevented many men from having wives or children. Whatever the reason, there was a significant decline in male DNA 7,000 years ago. Researchers were perplexed by the observation and started searching for clues. Their initial hypothesis was that pathogens responsible for diseases like smallpox or bubonic plague could have wiped out most men, but the symptoms of these illnesses don't match up. Victims often experience fevers, weakness, bleeding, rash, organ failure, and death. Given the lack of medical care, it's difficult to say whether those symptoms could have taken down 95% of the male population. Others argued that climate change led to famine and only men died from starvation. This makes sense since men typically engage in hunting and provide sustenance for their communities. But this theory doesn't explain why the rest of the population remained unaffected. Still others think the extinction was caused by a combination of circumstances. Perhaps climate change led to food shortages, forcing people to abandon their homes. Migrating groups clashed, and entire settlements were wiped out. These researchers theorized that male bodies were targeted, resulting in the near extinction of male DNA. Regardless of the cause, the extinction had profound effects on the course of human history. As mentioned, men and women typically have different roles in society, especially when it comes to reproduction. Most species require both male and female genetic material to create offspring. But depending on the species, females can reproduce without mating. This process is called parthenogenesis and has been observed in certain types of lizards, insects, amphibians, and birds. Unfortunately, it appears humans aren't capable of asexual reproduction, so whatever caused the extinction of 95% of men likely wouldn't affect women. At the same time, not all scientists agree with the findings. Some say the extinction never happened. The argument is based on the idea that analyzing ancient DNA isn't accurate enough to draw conclusions. Others argue that all the evidence points to deliberate targeting of males. Take, for example, a study of skulls from Israel's Arava Valley. Researchers discovered that men were 5 times more likely than women to be killed during a battle 7,500 years ago. Another study focused on mass graves in Germany's Erdettal region. The remains belonged to men between the ages of 18 and 40. Suggesting entire communities of men were murdered during the Neolithic period. These theories are nothing new. Since the 1970s, historians have debated a mysterious pre-biblical flood. Was it a single event or several smaller ones? Did it target men specifically or wipe out everyone in its path? The extinction of 95% of men could have been the result of natural disasters that forced entire groups to flee their homes. As people migrated, they fought over dwindling supplies of food and water. Eventually, entire settlements were wiped out, leaving behind only pockets of survivors. This would explain why the male Y chromosome became so diverse after the event. Though it was lucky enough to survive, mated with as many women as possible, ensuring their DNA would live on. The bigger question is, what triggered the disasters in the first place? Climate change seems like the obvious culprit, but researchers aren't sure if rising temperatures, falling, rain, or extreme weather played a role. Whatever the cause, entire populations vanished, leaving us with little more than ruins and legends. So what do you think really happened? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Speaking of archaeological mysteries, here's one that'll blow your mind. Have you ever heard of the Baghdad Battery? A team of Polish and Iraqi archaeologists unearthed clay jars buried underground in a 2,000-year-old city. Inside each jar was a copper tube, a terracotta plug, and a metal pin. When they connected the parts, the team realized they had stumbled upon a battery. But how did ancient Babylonians create such technology? And what were they using it for? Watch this video for the fascinating details.